I hardly find it necessary to restate it, but we have 100% policy against doping.
They've just kind of made a mockery of the system. They're abusing athletes, and it's business as usual.
I think it's just another provocation that the West has orchestrated against our country.
They are meddling in sports with their dirty hands and dirty minds.
At the heart of it is a young athlete who's potentially being abused at the hands of the Russia state or sports system.
They should have been suspended in Rio, they should have been suspended in Pyeongchang, and they should have been suspended in China.
We've seen this story before, and it's finally time to wake up and do something about it.
Russian figure skater Kamila Valieva tested positive for a banned substance just weeks before performing this week in Beijing. Heart medication that can increase endurance was found in the 15-year-old's sample on Christmas Day of last year. The Russian anti-doping agency at first suspended Valieva, but then lifted that suspension and allowed her to compete this week in Beijing. The International Olympic Committee is trying to reverse that decision by appealing to the International Court of Arbitration for Sport. Now, the news has stunned Olympic athletes, even more so because the positive test result was first made public after Valieva competed on Monday. Here's more now from DW's Olympics correspondent, Jonathan Crane.
Well, after days of speculation, we do now know that Kamila Valieva is indeed the athlete that tested positive for a banned substance and is the centre of this legal dispute that has delayed the medal ceremony for the team competition in figure skating. But we're still none the wiser as to whether she will be able to compete in her individual event next week. Now, the banned substance Valieva tested positive for is typically used to treat heart problems, but it can also be used to boost blood flow in the body. The Court of Arbitration for Sport here in Beijing has an ad hoc panel. It will now arrange an urgent hearing to look at the case. It has to be urgent because that individual competition takes place in just 6 days' time. Now, the court will look at whether the provisional suspension should have been lifted. It's not even going to consider when the medal ceremony for the team event can take place. So it could well be that Valieva is not allowed to compete in her individual event, but could still end up with a gold medal for the team event after appeals and all the other legal processes. But at the heart of this, let's not forget that Valieva is just 15 years old. There's a duty of care over her. But it's not a good look for Russia, is it? The country has already been banned for a doping scandal. It's not even competing under its real name here. It's competing under the Russian Olympic Committee. And again, more questions, more controversy surrounding Russia and doping.
That was Jonathan Crane there reporting from Beijing. My first guest tonight is the authority on doping in sports. His investigations have revealed systemic cheating in cycling. He also reported on doping at the 2008 Beijing Summer Olympics. I'm happy to welcome sports journalist Hayo Zeppelt back to the day. Hayo, it's good to see you again. And let's be clear about what could happen here. Valieva's next scheduled event is on February 15th, when she's favored to win gold in the individual figure skating event. If she competes, the world will know that this 15-year-old on the ice has tested positive for a banned substance. Will this be a first?
To be honest, this is a very, very, very sensitive case and a very, very complicated case. It's very clear and obvious that she has been tested positive for a banned substance. On the other hand, she's a minor athlete. She's 15 years old. And this means, according to the rules, it's quite different to adult athletes because it can happen with children, and we talk about children here, that she didn't know about what has been found in her body. That means third parties have manipulated her, have doped her. This makes it so complicated. That means if it comes to get a decision about if she's guilty or not, you have to consider that maybe she didn't know about it. That means, at the very end, that maybe she will not be banned for 4 years or for 2 years if this is all confirmed at the very end. But what can happen next week is that she will be suspended from the competition because this is not fair sport, apart from the question if she's guilty or not.
I mean, it's actually a tragedy for her, especially if she has known nothing about the doping. Her trainers and coaches, as you say, they're the ones responsible. I mean, do you think this
Yes.
looks like Russian state-sponsored doping the way we've seen it many times before?
That's what I cannot imagine, to be honest, because I think at least some of them have learned their lessons after this big scandal.
Mm-hmm.
But, and this is a news now for you in Berlin, we know that she is working together with a doping doctor, with a guy. His name is Schwedzky, Philip Schwedzky,
Mm-hmm.
and he is a kind of medical advisor, and he was already banned for doping because he administered drugs to athletes 2007. And he's now working with her. That means, at the very end, she's very close to dubious people. Also, her coach is known as very hard, as very rude, and is also, at least some people say that, I wouldn't say connected, but maybe not very far from administering whatever kind of medication. That's what we heard in ARD German television. That means Kamila Valieva, might be a victim of her entourage.
Well, I mean, that's sobering, and that is definitely a new development here, Hayo. What do you think the International Olympic Committee, what should the committee do now?
That's what I said already. If it comes to the competition next week, it's simply an unfair sport because they have found a forbidden substance in her urine. That means this is not a fair competition. And apart from the question if she's guilty or not, usually you cannot say she will be allowed to compete. So what I expect at the moment, that is really uncertain, but I can imagine that at the very end she will not be allowed to compete. But let's wait and see. Apart from the question, after the Olympics, then they will open the B sample, and then the legal procedure will continue.
Do you think, though, that there should have been a better vetting process of some sort? Because we understand that she tested positive on December 25th of last year, and yet we only found out about it after she competed this week. Shouldn't something have happened in between there to prevent this performance from taking place?
You are totally right, and I don't understand it. What happened? It was December 25th at the Russian Championships in St. Petersburg. And on February 8th, the Swedish anti-doping lab, which did the analyzing of the sample, informed the Russian anti-doping agency 1 day after the team competition. I don't understand that delay. It took really long, very long, and it is overshadowed now the Olympics. It would have been much better to do the analysis and to do the result management before the games.
Yeah, I think it's a good point. I think a lot of people are asking why it happened the way it did. Hayo Zeppold, it's always good to see you. We appreciate your analysis tonight. Valuable insights. Thank you.
All the best. Take care.